If you enjoy Astronomy FM radio, please let us know with a small donation. We do rely on your support, and it's true. Every little bit counts.
AFM.
Gentlemen, we have a serious problem. The Limeys are taking over Astronomy.fm.
Welcome to Under British Skies. News, views and interviews from the UK world of astronomy with Richie Jarvis, Nick Howes, Iain Melville, Paul Harper, Nick Evetts, Sam Hawkins and Jenny Winder. The show is engineered by Michael Forster and produced by the team. Previous episodes of Under British Skies are available to download from iTunes. You can contact the team on Twitter at Under British Sky or email us at ubs@astronomy.fm.
Good evening and welcome to Under British Skies. It's good to have you with us this evening. We've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about NEAF with Nick Howes, and also we're going to be talking about the transit of Venus and the annular eclipse. In Book Corner this month, we're talking about The Sky at Night, answers to questions from across the universe by Sir Patrick Moore and Dr. Chris North. And also in App Corner, we're going to be talking about 3D Sun. But before all that, let's introduce the team. So, firstly, my name's Richie Jarvis. I'm an amateur astronomer based in the south of England. And I'm mostly an astrophotographer. Iain.
Thanks, Richie. Yeah, my name's Iain Melville. I'm also in the south of England, though slightly north of Richie. I'm in Rickmansworth, northwest of London. I'm also interested in astrophotography from my home observatory, and I'm also interested in using research-grade equipment online, such as the Fawkes telescopes. Paul.
Hi, my name's Paul Harper. I'm an observational astronomer, amateur astronomer, from south London, and I'm a member of the Croydon Astronomical Society. Jenny.
Hello, I'm Jenny Winder, a science writer for Universe Today and Urban Times, and an amateur astronomer based in Yorkshire. Nick.
Good evening, my name is Nick Evetts. I'm currently based in Bedfordshire. I'm interested in astrophotography, and I'm currently reading astronomy, quantum mechanics and geology.
Thanks for that, team. Iain, I believe we've got a news story.
Yeah, let's kick off the news. The first item that we're going to talk about, you may remember last month I mentioned the Envisat satellite and the fact that the European Space Agency had lost communication with the probe. That didn't go well. Basically, it's now confirmed dead. We're not going to hear any more from it, which is a shame. It's a very expensive mission, which had already done its projected lifespan, but it's 10 years since it was launched. We're not going to hear any more from it, and we're going to have to do something to replace it. It used to record all sorts of interesting information. It was taking radar images through clouds. It was taking spectrometer readings, providing all sorts of meteorological information, and this information is now going to have to be sourced elsewhere. Jenny's very kindly written an article which is on Urban Times, and I'll post a link to that article so you can get all the details into the chat room, and it'll also be in the show notes. Next news item is from Jenny. Ash and Light.
Hello, yes. Well, there's two very ephemeral effects that are can be seen right at the moment. Between now and mid-August, we're in noctilucent or night-shining cloud season. These thin veils of cloud glow pale blue low in the northern night sky. They form high up at the very edge of space, where the atmosphere has 100 millionth the amount of moisture found in the air over the Sahara Desert, and temperatures can fall below minus 100 degrees Celsius. The ice crystals that form are illuminated by the rays of the sun, which stays close to the horizon all night at this time of year. They were first noted in 1885 after the eruption of Krakatoa, and were thought to be linked to ash from the volcano. But the ash eventually disappeared and the clouds remained. And in fact, they've been seen more frequently over a wider area and shining more brightly ever since, perhaps due to climate change. And the other ephemeral event to look out for before the transit of Venus at the beginning of next month is the ashen light of Venus. This is said to be similar to Earthshine seen on the moon, but not as bright. It's a more subtle glow on the unlit portion of Venus between the bright crescent's arms. And though many have claimed to see the effect, many others haven't, and it's never been imaged. So it may be down to observer error or optical illusion or equipment malfunction. But if it is real, it could be the green glow produced in Venus' atmosphere by oxygen being split from carbon dioxide molecules by sunlight, or caused by multiple lightning strikes on Venus. So I'll just end by asking if anyone on the team have seen it.
No, I've never seen it. If I did, I'd go and grab the camera, I think. Paul, you're an observational astronomer. Have you seen it?
I've seen it twice, but I think most extensively about 6 years ago, when we were just leaving a lecture at a local school, and someone saw it in the sky around about 10 o'clock at night, and it's quite a sight to see, really. These clouds are up at 80,000 feet, so it's a very rare thing that happens this time of year, and it's lovely to see.
What, you've seen ashen light twice?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Anybody else seen the ashen light?
No.
No.
Okay. Iain just pointed out it's what Brian May did his thesis on.
I think it might be, wasn't it? Is it the ashen light?
Not sure.
It's caused by dust in the solar system.
Anyway, another bit of sad space news about the SpaceX launch failure. So the spacecraft was supposed to go up yesterday on the 19th of May, but SpaceX aborted the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft. Due to the instantaneous launch window, we were not able to recycle and reattempt the launch today, they said. Early data indicates that the flight computer detected a slightly high combustion chamber pressure on engine 5, which prompted the computer to abort the countdown. They're still reviewing the data, but they have said that they're going to reattempt the launch on Tuesday, May the 22nd at 3:44 a.m. Now, other news. So our American cousins... yes, you lucky people. You've got a solar eclipse coming, or an annular solar eclipse coming up. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to see it over this side of the country. Go ahead, Iain.
Just to point out, it was the zodiacal light, not the ashen light, that Brian May did his PhD on. Completely different.
Yes. Sorry. You're right. So anyway, there's the annular solar eclipse on May the 20th, in fact today, so later on this evening. Unfortunately for us here in the UK, we're not going to be able to see it because it's a US phenomenon. But hopefully there will be some skycasts going on the internet to actually have a look at that. So if you go into the show notes after the show, and we will also put some links up as well, where you can actually go and view the eclipse after the show later on tonight.
In fact, Richie, the eclipse is visible for the US, Pacific, Japan, and China. So if you're in the Pacific Ocean area, you will get to see the annular eclipse.
Yes, I just ought to point out, so an annular eclipse is where the moon is slightly further away from the Earth and doesn't completely cover the sun's disk. You get a ring of fire around the moon. So it starts at 2100 GMT, which is in approximately 49 minutes. So immediately after the show.
Yes, in fact, NASA is covering it on the web and quite a few other places.
Excellent. Right. So with that, let us get on, and we're going to first of all talk about the transit of Venus. Paul and Jenny.
Well, yes, the transit of Venus, a very rare phenomenon, Jenny, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's going to be visible across much of the globe, June 5th to 6th. These transits, they occur in this odd repeating pattern. After 121 years, we get a pair of transits 8 years apart, and then after 105 years, we get another pair, and then the pattern repeats. And there have only been 6 transits since the invention of the telescope. That's
right, and of course the first real observation was by a gentleman in 1639, name of Jeremy Horrocks, of University of Cambridge, if I remember rightly, in 1639. And the first serious astronomical observations were during the 1761 and onwards. I seem to remember that 1761 and onwards. That's really the short history of the transit of Venus. The last transit, of course, was in 2004, which for us in the UK was we managed to see the whole thing.
Yeah, it was a spectacular.
Did you see it, Jenny?
I did. I took my children up just before school to see it. I think they were actually late to school that day. But yeah, it was the thing is that because of the weird repeating pattern, there were no transits at all during the 20th century. So prior to 2004, the last one was in 1882. So 2004 was the first time we got a chance to get technology involved. And of course, this year you've got this one. You've got an app we can actually download.
Yes, that's right. It's quite an interesting app.
Yeah. Have you had a go with it?
I've just had a quick go of it. It's called from our friends Astronomers Without Borders, and they are actually the people who have actually devised this app. And you can both get it on Android and also iPhone. It's completely free, and it's all worth having a go.
That's
so you've
right.
got a little trial.
That's right. You can practice your transit timings, which is really useful because it's not easy with the black drop effect to actually get the timing of ingress and egress right. I mean, I've been trying, and I'm out by quite a bit each time. So you really do need.
What's the black drop effect?
That's when the disk of Venus goes into the sun's disk, and it seems to. Gosh, how can you explain it?
You see, there's an optical effect basically when you look through a telescope. It seems to like a cushion sort of effect. It doesn't appear completely round. It's like a little blob.
That's right.
But those people who took CCD images back in 2004 didn't see it. Well, some people didn't see it, and I took quite a lot of pictures, and I hopefully they're being posted into the chat room now. I took 200 images from RF Kenley, and where we were there on a very hot day. We were there from 3 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't actually get that effect. But if you look at all those pictures I took, they will show the transit of Venus of that day, and we couldn't see the effect at all.
Right. It's strange. I mean, because on the app with the simulation, it's really clear. But what this app does is it lets you practice, and then it will predict the times for your location, and then it allows you to send your observations and timings to a global database. So it's well worth getting involved in a global experiment, because transits are used to determine the distance to the sun and help refine our measurements. So, it's well worth getting involved with. And, of course, the next transit won't be until 2117. So it's a lifetime, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity not to be missed.
Yes, the next one will be on in December 2117, so 105 years away. And if you're really long-lived, December 2125 as well. If you miss the 2117 one, I don't think any of us are going to be around by then.
No.
Nick, I think you had something to say.
Yes, I just want to make sure that everybody realises, don't look directly at the sun with the naked eye or through a telescope or binoculars for this event. Because you can damage your eyes, and you don't want to do that. You can buy safety film and specialist viewers for the sun, which will allow you to do this safely. I really want to emphasize the fact that if you look directly at the sun, you will damage your vision, and you don't want that, not if you're an astronomer, surely.
No, that's a very good point, Nick. I was in Telescope House yesterday, actually, and seeing that they have some very cheap eclipse glasses which you can buy, which are perfectly adequate for viewing the sun, and which you can use, but obviously do not take a sneaky peek without them, and never ever look at the sun through a telescope.
Yes, as Black Projects has just pointed out in the chat room, as Sir Patrick says, the sun is dangerous to look at.
And as Mike says, don't look directly at UBS without proper protection, because your eyes might break. Paul?
Just one thing to add, of course, that this year's Transit UK, we do not see it from the whole thing from the UK. We just see the last bits from the UK. And I shall be observing from 4:45 a.m. to around about 5:45 a.m. And that's the transit from me.
Yes. And here's hoping we get some decent weather for it. But yes, if you want to view the transit from the UK, go and find yourself a nice hill or something where you've got a good eastern vista, and get yourself a pair of eclipse glasses or a white light filter for a telescope, or an HA telescope if you've got one, and go and have a look for it. But I'm afraid it will be an early start. And with that, now we're going to pass over to our first interview with Nick Howes. I'm very pleased to welcome back Nick Howes. Good evening, Nick.
Good evening, Richie. How are you?
Oh, very good, mate. How are you?
Good. I'm pleased to hear as well that you've joined the TMB Owners Club, which is amazing. You now have one of the best telescopes in the world. Excellent stuff.
I must admit, it is absolutely incredible. I was looking at Saturn through it the other night, and I have never seen anything so crisp in my entire life. You know, it was jaw-droppingly beautiful, and I cannot wait to get some more power on it now.
No, they really are. I mean, Thomas, God rest his soul, I mean, the guy knew how to put optics together, and, you know, what an amazing... Every TMB is just heaven. So, congratulations on that one. Welcome to the club. They're brilliant. I went wandering stateside, yes. NEAF, for our American listeners, you probably know, it's the Northeast Astronomy Fair, which is held in a place called Suffern, about 45 minutes north of New York. And it's the second year that I've been there. And last year I was there with Astronomy Now magazine, covering it for them, and did a big thing with the meteorite men, and mainly looking at the equipment. This year, the equipment was interesting. The austerity measures that are kicking in globally are definitely starting to bite stateside. You could kind of see the attendance wasn't as high as last year.
You say that there wasn't the enthusiasm there. Was that enthusiasm from the vendors or enthusiasm from you know, the astronomers?
I'd say it's a bit more subdued. The astronomers, I mean, the public talks were extremely well attended. The meteorite men, for example, when they came on stage, both of them, it was a packed auditorium, and they literally raised the roof. It was phenomenal. And there were some great talks from people from the James Webb Space Telescope. Dr. J, aka Dr. Joe Liska, who does the ESA Hubblecast, he gave a great talk. Dave Eicher from Astronomy Magazine, Robert Nye from Sky and Telescope. I mean, there were really good talks there. So the enthusiasm was definitely there from the public. And the Solar Star Party, because they had incredibly good skies over there for the whole duration of NEAF, was amazing. I mean, attendance was brilliant. Some great views of the sun through loads and loads of different telescopes. I just got the feeling that the vendors, it was just a little bit more quiet and subdued, and maybe that was just the attendance being down a bit, but there wasn't the kind of real buzz and enthusiasm that you had last year, where you had people, you know, they had one group, I think it was OPT telescopes, who were going around pretending to be the village people and like singing and dancing, and it was, you know, it was really entertaining. And this year, kind of a bit more subdued, I think, and people's pockets a little bit more, you know, tight, as it were. I mean, there's some great bargains there. Not as many as last year, though. Yeah, I mean, this year, the thing this year that grabbed me was more, it was the people interaction, rather than, like, the dealers and the equipment. I mean, there was some nice, tidy new bits of equipment there. Highlight for me, the new astrophysics mount, which is just, I just dream of owning one of these mounts. Every time I see one, I just think I've got to buy one. I talked to Roland at Astrophysics. You know, it was just lush. They've got the new one, the AP 1600, which is just amazing. It's $10,900, so it'll probably work out about 12 grand by the time it gets here, based on the dollar-pound exchange rate in inverted commas. But this thing's got ridiculous low capacity. I mean, they're saying that it can take a 20-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. I mean, this thing, literally massive low capacity, and they're saying it's got completely error-free tracking. I mean, they're claiming that you can do, like, long duration, long exposure imaging without even auto-guiding on this thing. It's got this software-readable absolute position system. They say it can image 6 hours past the meridian. It's just, you just look at it and you think, that's just gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, and the other, Paramount were there with the MX, and they had some new tripods on that. And there was, I mean, the mounts to me were the big one this year. There was some cracking bargains from Toa. Didn't see TMB there this year. Teleview again had a very big stand. But in terms of new kit, I mean, there were a couple of highlights. That was one. Ioptron, they also had a very nice, very low cost at the other end of the spectrum mount, called the Smart EQ, which is coming in at $399, so probably about £380 when it gets over here. And it's aimed directly at the kind of Skywatcher EQ3 go-to end of the market. So about a 5 kilo load, but they reckon it can run for about 16 hours on battery, which is pretty good. On AA batteries, it takes 8 of them, which is quite scary. But they're really pitching it like people going away for transits or eclipses or that type of thing, or people that want to image out in the desert. The one thing I didn't see on it, and I could be mistaken here, but I didn't see an autoguider port on it. But for just basic tracking, wide field, especially with a camera or low focal length telescope, then it could be quite nice. Could be quite an interesting mount for that money anyway. Quite lightweight as well. I got a chance to look for the 200mm Lunt telescope, the H Alpha this year.
Oh, good. How was it?
It was all right.
It was all right.
It was, no, I'm genuinely, hand on heart, ask anyone who, there were various other people there from Sky Night magazine were there, for example, Astronomy Now were there. I got a really good chat with the Sky Night team while I was over there. And I was hanging out with them and we were looking through the telescopes, and to a man, pretty much everyone who looked through the telescopes, all the telescopes, and there were people on Twitter who will confirm this as well, there was a Coronado 90mm there that was kind of re-hand configured by someone who really knows how to do this. And it's owned by a chap called Stephen Ramsden, who does the Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Outreach Project. And the views on that just decimated everything. Literally everything. There was nothing even remotely close in terms of the view you were getting of the sun through that thing. And everybody just was like, well, why are these so different? And they were looking through like...
So what you're saying is a 200mm
Lunt outperformed by a 90mm Coronado. Completely outperformed. And it's not a fault of the Lunt at all. I mean, there was the Lunt 60 that was there was exceptionally good. And the 75, the 80, sorry, the double stacked 80 that they had there was really, really good as well. Really nice views. But the 200 was just like, yeah. But going back to NEAF, like I said, the equipment was fun. The best bit of the show, I mean, hanging out with the Meteorite Men is always amazing. Hanging out with Jeff, we went to a place called the Challenger Centre, which is quite near to the exhibition hall. It's a kind of kids' space education centre, and it's basically set up to kind of commemorate and remember the memory of the Challenger space shuttle disaster. And there's a guy over there who's on Twitter, who's called the NASA Man on Twitter, a guy called Sawyer. And this guy's he is a force of nature.
Sawyer Rosenstein.
The guy is amazing. The guy is just off the scale amazing. We went round to his house. We had ribs at his house. Woody had cooked some fantastic, really fermented for a day ribs. Eaten those, and then he said, "Oh, do you want to see some cool stuff?" And his room is like a wall of NASA memorabilia. He's got Werner von Braun's signature. It's like, what? He's got Apollo original patches from the missions from 11, 12. It's just every NASA shuttle astronaut practically. He's just got this wall of NASA goodness. And he really is a force of nature. And we went down to the Challenger Centre and we ran this simulated mission to the moon. and we all had to take our like roles in this like mock-up spaceship, and there were about 20 of us in this room, just some of us on Fido and Capcom and some doing robotic arms. And the Meteorite Men, Jeff was there, and Steve Arnold, and it was just so brilliant. Such a great night, and just really good fun. And that's what I was saying about the people interaction. Meeting some really great people. Dave Iker, as I said, from Astronomy Magazine. Just really, really nice, good people. And it really made it.
What was your highlight, Nick?
The absolute highlight. Right, so we're standing, it wasn't a piece of equipment, it wasn't the Astrophysics Mountain or anything like that. I'm standing on the Meteorite Men's stand, okay, with a few other people. And this guy walks up and he said, I'm here because I've been told to come here. And Jeff Notkin's assistant, a lady called Suzanne, who's absolutely fantastic, she said, you're John, aren't you? Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've been talking to your mum for a few weeks about blah, 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 blah. Anyway, his mother had bought him a meteorite as a graduation present, right? This meteorite was the most gorgeous sliced meteorite you've ever seen in your life. It was like $12,000 worth of just gorgeousness, right? And it was like they call it, I think it's a transition meteorite. So it went from like a palisite where it got all these gorgeous crystals in it, through to a kind of nickel iron with I can never pronounce this properly, but the Wildenson patterns on the other side. And it was just, this guy's face, it was like a 4-year-old had just come down on Christmas morning and Santa had brought him everything. You know that feeling, you know, when you see kids, come down Christmas morning and they've got what Santa, what they've asked Santa for, a bike or whatever. It was like that. But this guy was like in his mid-late 20s. And it was just amazing. And then he was just enthusing about his mum and how great his mum was. And everybody was just, it was just an awesome experience. And it sounds like a corny cliche, but it really was just this amazing experience to watch this guy just so excited about this meteorite. And then he had his photograph taken with him. And I just love Jeff Notkin. I mean, we've had him on Under British Skies in the past. He is just one of the nicest people you could ever wish to meet. He really is just brilliant. And, he'll have pictures signed and all sorts. And like I said, their talk was one of the best talks I've ever seen. There was storming the stage. And I say storming the stage, Jeff was storming the stage. Steve was sat in the crowd. He was just thinking, right, I'm going to kick back and chill out. And he walked into the crowd, took his radio mic with him, and was just doing like his part of the show from the crowd. It's just, honestly, amazing. But it was good as well because I got to meet a lot of the Tweet Up crowd as well, the Space Tweeps, and that was great. And got picked up and dropped off by the airport by Craft Lass, and that, really nice friends. And that's what it was. It was a friend event. It was one of those kind of, you've got to go for the experience. And last year it was all about the equipment. This year it was all about the people.
Brilliant.
Met up with the Astronomy Now group and Sky at Night, and talking to Sky and Telescope and talking to Astronomy Magazine. And the enthusiasm from those was amazing. They've got all sorts of trips running. Like Sky and Telescope are up at the top of Mauna Kea for the Venus Transit in a few weeks. And there was loads of buzz about that kind of thing, about people events. That was what the buzz was this year. It wasn't the equipment, it was the people and the events and what was happening. And I think that's the kind of mission now in terms of astronomy and outreach and that type of thing. It's getting people involved. And, we've seen it with Stargazing Live in this country, and over in the States they're reshooting Cosmos now with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I think this kind of public outreach and event and people stuff is really, really important now. So.
Excellent. Right, Nick. Well, thanks for telling us all about your trip to NEAF. That was absolutely brilliant. I must see if we can get the UBS team along there one year, because it would be nice to meet up with all the Astronomy FM guys over there as well. Now, we're just going to take a break, and we'll be back talking to Nick again very shortly.
And welcome back. And that was a great interview with Nick Howes about NEAF. Your great team here at Under British Skies has actually found there is a cosmic cocktail drink available for observers of the transit of Venus. I put the link into the chat room. If you scroll down towards the bottom of the page, you will find the ingredients you require. Now, sadly, officially, the sun is not over the yard. I'm in the UK, but if you go down the pub at about 11 o'clock at night, you should still be able to get it. What you need is a tumbler 3/4 of ice, hand crush 2 to 3 lime quarters, and or add 2 splashes of real lime 100% juice. Lime juice is actually very important for this drink. And then you add the main ingredients. 1 1/2 vodka, plain or citron. You can, of course, substitute white rum or gin. Either option is tasty, I'm told. Half of Red Bull and 2 parts of Werner's ginger ale or another strong ginger ale or ginger beer. And then what you do once you've mixed it, you add a full round slice of lemon to simulate the sun, remove the lemon seed and replace it with a caper. Have a look at the link. You'll probably find it highly amusing. And there is a video for after the show. And now on to more interesting stuff.
Right. Now, we talked earlier about the transit of Venus. And, of course, Jenny and I mentioned about an application which you can download for your Android and iPhone. Now, one of those things you can do with this app is time the ingress and the egress of the transit of Venus. And Jenny and I have been playing around with this. What have you found, Jenny?
That it's a lot harder than it looks. It's with the simulation, you really do need to practice. But on the actual day, you can be looking through, obviously, your sun-filtered binoculars or whatever, and you can log the times of ingress and egress by hitting the screen, and it will vibrate to say, yes, it's logged it. And then you can send that off to this global database, and you can then give them your email address, and you can go in and you can put in your images or your videos and your descriptions of what you saw for the transit. So all in all, it's a pretty handy little app to have, I think.
Indeed. It's, of course, we should remind people that if you're in the UK, you won't see the first bit, or the first few bits. But you will, as if you go down the pub and it starts about 2300, whatever, and log on to the internet, and you'll be able to see it actually online. Do it that way. Now, the other application we were going to talk about, of course, is Sun 3D, which is another application that you can also use on Android and iPhone, if I remember rightly. You've been looking at that as well.
Yes, yeah, I've got it on my iPad. A lovely thing about this, lovely thing about both these apps is that they're free. But Sun 3D is great. It sends you, uses data from Solar Dynamics Observatory and the stereo satellites in orbit around the sun to monitor solar activity, and it sends you alerts of solar flares and tells you about the number of sunspots and auroral activity. It also shows animations of the solar wind and gives you a great 360-degree sun in various wavelengths, letting you find and track sunspots. And there's a gorgeous image gallery as well. I've got it up. Sorry, Nick, Paul.
It also gives you news and events. It's quite up to date.
That's right.
It's great. Look at that.
It's currently telling me that there's that today there was an interplanetary shockwave hit Earth's magnetic field around 0200 Universal Time on May 20th, sparking mild geomagnetic activity and high-latitude auroras. So there you go.
Sounds great.
It's a good app.
It is. Richie.
Thanks, guys. Well, I mean, I've been playing around with it myself. I know Iain has as well. Been having a bit of fun with it. You can also view different pictures in different wavelengths as well, which is quite nice. And actually look at what's facing the Earth and what's away from the Earth at any particular time. Brilliant little app. It gave me an alert about the aurora, which happened the other day. So, yeah, thoroughly recommended. Thoroughly recommended. Right, now we're going to go over to the second part of the interview with Nick Howes. Talking again to Nick Howes for the second part of this interview. I've been working with the ESA and the Faulkes Telescope team on getting a collaboration going between them, I believe.
Yeah, there's a lot going on at the moment. Some of it we can talk about, some of it we can't. But, I mean, basically, ESA is the European Space Agency, and I work for them in the science communication side. And there's lots of good stuff going on, pretty much every day. But I also work with the Fox Telescope Project as a kind of pro-am collaboration manager, basically trying to set up new and interesting projects. So we've got Project Snoopy, and the data's live now for that, so you can go on the Minor Planet Centre's website, go on their space junk section, and Snoopy's there, and you can punch in any date that you want from now until 20 whatever, and it'll give you the coordinates. Currently Snoopy's, we think, at Lagrange point 4. Around about 160 million kilometres away from the Earth, but we believe there was a close approach around about 2006, and we've also got all the archive data which is going live on the Fox website from 2004 through to 2013, so you'll be able to go to any of the big sky surveys like Catalina, Pan-STARRS, any sky survey that makes the data public, in fact. And you can just punch in the coordinates for every 3 minutes, basically. Mike Laux, who we've had on the show in the past, amazing job. The amount of calculations in this were just staggering. It's taken months to get this data right. And this is communicating with, Apollo people, Chuck Dietrich, who was on the Apollo flight ground crew. We've got the FIDO and Retro guys. We've had people from JPL helping. It's just been a huge amount of work, but it's finally now out there. So anyone can look for Snoopy. We've got a project which is ongoing at the moment. I was at a meeting in London a few weeks ago to talk about the Rosetta mission, which ESA are flying a spacecraft to land. They're going to land a small lander called Philae and put an orbiter around a comet called 67P. I'm not going to say the other two names for it, but it's a big old name, which is going to come close to us in kind of 2014, 2015. With the Fox telescope, we've actually managed to image it, and we've imaged it before anyone else in the world. We set a challenge at this meeting to basically get the first ground-based images of the comet, and it's currently at its aphelion, so it's at its furthest point from the sun. We've imaged it at 5.668 AU from the sun, which is just unheard of. Not even the Spectral or Hubble has managed that. And at the meeting, we were told that the VLT had attempted to image it and they hadn't been successful just a few weeks earlier. We got it with the 2-metre Fox telescope, so we're really chuffed about that, and lots of images been taken of that. Richard Miles at the British Astronomical Association took up the challenge. That was fantastic, really fantastic result for Fox, so we're pleased about that. So that's another project, the Rosetta stuff that we're working on. It's a real long-term project, monitoring the comet, sending the data over to ESA and collaborating and kind of coordinating this now with students and schools and some of the amateur community as well. But the big one that we've announced this week is, I was over at ESA in the ESTEC Centre in Holland in March, and I was there principally for a meeting with their space situational awareness team. Now, these are the guys that are kind of trying to protect the planet. These are the we don't need Bruce Willis, we're going to do it this way team. Chap over there who's real rock and roll star, he's amazing, a guy called Detlef Kochny, who's a research scientist. He's also on the Rosetta project, working on the OSIRIS camera, part of the team that runs the Space Situational Awareness project. They've got a telescope, a 1-metre telescope on Mount Tidy, and what they do is they look for near-Earth asteroids, potentially hazardous near-Earth asteroids. And they've got a massive field of view. It's like, I think it's about a 1 degree field of view on this telescope. So it's a nice wide field instrument, but it's 1 metre. So what we've said to them is, look, we've got the 2-metre telescopes with Fox, and we've got lots of opportunities. We get, I think it's 1,500 hours per year on these scopes, which is a lot more than they get on the Mount Tidy instrument. They only get a few days a month on it. So we've said, look, if you find something and you need orbital refinement, we will do it for you. So you send us the coordinate data. We've now got access to their databases. They've got access to our databases. So anything we see and find, they can do follow-up on, or anything they see and find, we can do follow-up on. And if they've got a suspected candidate that's right on the limits of what they think they can see at 1 metre aperture, they can send us coordinates. We will then run the telescopes on their coordinate positions and see if we can pick it up with a 2 metre, which should give us more light grasp. It's been a big kind of project that we've been working on for a few months now. And we're just really pleased it's all come together. And ESA's signed it off, and it went up on their website this week. And we're really chuffed, really pleased to be working with them. Amazing team of people, seriously amazing team of people. So
that's brilliant. It almost sounds like the left hand's going to know what the right hand's doing because they're part of the same person.
Exactly. Well, exactly. It's nice kind of having kind of fingers in both pies, as it were, because then you get to know people and you get to find out what the interesting projects are. And this one came up actually from Twitter. It was social media. It's a guy who works at ESA, who works in kind of one of the SciComm's offices, and he put up a tweet on Twitter, basically saying about this Mount Tidy project and how amateurs had discovered some new asteroids last year. And I picked up on this and thought, well, this is interesting. I did a bit of research on what they were doing, and they're working with the La Sagra Sky Survey in Spain as well. So we're just adding to their capability, and it's critical science. I mean, it's no joke. If an asteroid were to hit the Earth of a substantial size, it could, Deep Impact and Armageddon, great or lousy films as they may be, depending on your point of view, these things happen, and we're long overdue a big asteroid strike. We haven't had a good one on Earth in 65 million years. So it's just a good way, and it's good science. And it all ties in with everything that we're kind of doing at the moment with folks in terms of we're throwing a lot of emphasis now on solar system bodies. We've had so much success with the asteroid projects and programs last year, detecting new asteroids. Lots and lots of great success with comet recovery projects where we've been re-imaging comets coming through into a new opposition for the first time. That's myself and the team in Italy, and the Cara group, and then Richard Miles's group at the BAA, again doing fantastic work. They're doing long duration monitoring on comets like 29P. Richard's also working on a project with Comet Holmes. Remember Comet Holmes when it was a gigantic, great big green ball in the sky? Well, he's still imaging it. It's amazing stuff that these guys are doing, and it's lots and lots of these interesting little projects that are going on, but all focused around where we're getting a lot of success, which is with the solar system bodies. So, and it's great for the students and the kids. One of the key passionate things I'm really into is getting the students who are using these telescopes. They'll start off taking the pretty pictures of M51 and M27 and what have you. And that's fantastic, and it gets them into the telescopes. But moving them on to doing real science and real scientific research, as it were. So we're not just getting them to take the pictures, we're going to be working on projects where they're going to be doing light curve analysis, rotational gradient processing on comets to look at the jet structure in the tails, all sorts of good stuff. So,
all right, Nick, well, thanks very much for talking to us, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay, and clear skies, mate.
Welcome back. Thank you guys for that really brilliant interview about NEAF. Book Corner this month is a Sky at Night special book, and I'll put the link into the chat room. It is the answers to questions from across the universe. I recently got this about 3 weeks ago, and I have now finished it. As it's by Sir Patrick Moore and Dr. Chris North, it is brilliant. If there's a question that you're stumped on at your astronomy club, or if somebody in the pub asks you a question, I really do recommend this book. It's a fairly chunky tome. It's out in hardback at the moment. But the questions that get answered, in some cases, are the really simple ones that everybody forgets or wants to know. So I really do recommend go out to your local bookstore, go online and get it, and give it a good read. I was laughing myself, I have to admit, to some of the questions and answers, because I thought, I know that one, and hang on a minute, so should you, but never mind. But it is a good book. It has some brilliant illustrations, and you can almost hear Sir Patrick's voice in your mind as you read the questions and answers. I do recommend it. An excellent read. Richie.
Thanks, Nick. I'm looking forward to reading that, grabbing hold of a copy of that. It does sound like a good little tome. Right, so now we're going to talk about what everybody's going to be doing for the summer, astro-wise. So Jenny's already told us off-air that she's not going to be doing anything astro-wise for the summer. So, but hopefully she's still going to be tweeting out and doing news research and writing articles. But for the rest of us, well, as Nick mentioned earlier on, Nick Howes mentioned earlier on in the interview, I've got myself a new scope, a TMB 114mm f7 scope. For those that don't know, so TMB manufacture some of the best optics in the world. And looking through it, I mean, you can see it. It's so crisp and clear. Now, other things I'm going to be up to. So I've got, the old maintenance jobs, like I've got to recreosote the outside of the obsi. If you do have a wooden observatory, don't forget that each year you really should be treating it, painting it, looking after it. The more you do that, the longer it'll last. I think it's about the best maintained part of my house, actually. And I'm also thinking about putting a second pier into the observatory as well. Now I've opened things out a bit. Iain, what are you up to?
Right. Well, the first job for me when I get some free time from my busy family schedule and work schedule is to reinstall the telescopes properly, redo my polar alignment after the Isle of Wight Star Party, which seems like a very long time ago now, but it was only about 6 weeks, I think. Other things on the list, I have to do the yearly spring clean. I've got a white fiberglass observatory, which tends to attract algae when it gets wet and the sun shines on it. It gets a nice green sort of tint to it, which after a while turns brown or black, and I have to scrub that off with a broom sort of once a year. So that's got to be done basically to keep it nice and clean, and also to keep the fiberglass in good condition. And the other thing I'm thinking about doing is we recently took a holiday to Greece in a couple of weeks' time, and it happily coincides with the transit of Venus, which we've been talking about. Now, I've got a PST, a Coronado PST solar scope, which is very portable, and I'm wondering if it would be worth my while looking into not only taking that, but also taking my little imaging source DMK camera and maybe trying to find a netbook which I can hook it up to take some video. And if I can coincide that with accurate timing on the PC, I might be able to actually get some decent scientific data which I can feed back through the various channels. That might be something which I'll be looking into doing. And when the
that'd be really great if you can do that, Iain.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got to be thought through. I think there's room for the telescope and a tripod, not a tracking mount, but basically all you've got to do is get the camera bar loaded up so you've got a nicely magnified image and watch the limb for the egress times, which is all we're going to see. As was mentioned earlier, we're not going to see the ingress, which is where the shadow starts to cross the solar limb or the solar disk, but we will see the egress completely, which is, there's 2 points to that. There's the start and the finish where it starts to touch the limb, and then where it leaves the limb. Be able to get some accurate data for that. The only problem is getting the timing on the PC sub-second accurate. There won't be any internet access, of course, so I might have to look into getting a GPS unit, which I don't currently have, or maybe trying to link it somehow to my phone's GPS, which maybe there might be a possibility of setting the clock from the phone's GPS. I'm not sure. That's something to do, and then, of course, by the time I get back from Greece, it will be mid-June. Only a few weeks to wait until the nights start getting longer, and then I can start looking at imaging some autumn targets, which will be nebulae. So, yes, and then we'll go full circle. Yeah,
we're coming back onto nebula season again, coming out of galaxy season, of course.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, Iain, I mean, you're going to have a PST there. Are you going to take some eclipse glasses as well, just so you can watch it, or are you going to be concentrating 100% on your laptop?
Yeah, that's a good point. How will I view it visually? I think I will probably drop an eyepiece in before I'd start using the camera, a parfocal eyepiece, so I can get the focus right for the camera, and then sort of have a bash with the camera when it gets to within 5 or 10 minutes of the actual event. I don't think I'll bother with any unaided optical solar viewing, because it's going to be a tiny dot, and it's going to be difficult probably to see it just with an unaided optical configuration. So I'll probably just use an eyepiece to get a view of it, and then I'll drop the camera and see if I can record it. I'll go that way.
Brilliant. And of course, Nick, you've got your equipment coming back from the States. Now you're in the firmly back in the UK.
Yes, in fact, I know for a fact that the shipment has landed. It's left Felixstowe. It's now in London. So one of my first tasks is going to be levelling off and laying 4 paving slabs. And
paving slabs?
Yes.
Paving slabs?
Yes, I'm going to put some paving slabs in the middle of the grass in the back. I have a nice opening up between trees and stuff where I can actually see the horizon. So they're going to be put down, they're going to be levelled, and I'm going to set the scope up. I'm going to see if it still works. Because I wasn't kind of impressed with how it was handled when it was taken off out of my sticky little mitts in the US.
Oh, you actually got to see it after it got shipped out then?
Well, it was put on the back of a truck on a pallet, and then put on the back of a truck, but it wasn't wrapped. Nothing was wrapped up. So I'm kind of anxious to get the scope, get it out of the box, and check the OTA, which is the optical tube assembly, to see if it's still in one piece. If not, there's going to be an insurance claim.
Well, yes, it's that's at least it's going to be insured, isn't it? So when was the last time you actually saw the kit?
The last time I saw my scope was back in March. Yeah, back in March, just before I left the States for the UK.
Yes, and of course the skies are going to be a little bit more cloudy here. Of course, you do realise as soon as it turns up, it's going to be incredibly cloudy. In fact, I know some people have blamed me for the cloud for getting the TMB.
Well, as I say, this always seems to be the astronomer's curse. You get a new piece of kit, and what's the first thing that happens? You get cloudy skies.
Clouds rolled in.
And because we're always talking to our fellow astronomers about it on places like Stargazers Lounge and stuff, yeah, we know who's to blame. But I'm hoping that I'm going to duck it, because this is something that I previously owned. Ironically, I didn't have a cloudy week when I first got the scope. So, but of course, I've got 2 cameras I need to check out on my scope. I need to recollimate it, which is going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy that one, because I have to replace my collimator, unfortunately, and I have a whole bunch of electronic projects I have to get built this year.
Excellent. Paul just pointed out as well that he's had to shoot off now, unfortunately. But yes, don't forget there are quite a few globular clusters up in the sky at this time of year as well. So, for instance, the first thing I was able to get first light on the TMB, and I managed to shoot a shot of Messier 13, and also the first target was Messier 3. Which is kind of how I know how crisp and clear it is. And I did shoot a shot of which surprised me as well. Iain?
Globular clusters, yeah, you caught me off guard there. Not exactly sure what's around at the moment, but looking where we are looking at the moment at night is towards the Milky Way and towards the edges of the Milky Way, turning around gradually to move towards. We're moving from looking out of the Milky Way to looking into the Milky Way. So what we're doing is we're catching quite a lot of the globulars which are on the fringe of our galaxy, which is where they tend to sit. So there are certainly a few around. The famous one's M13 in Hercules. Not sure if that's currently well situated. I've got a feeling that that's on the other side of the disk. No,
it's a very good location at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, it was an early evening time. Well, early evening, about 10, 11 o'clock at night when I was shooting M3 and M13. There's M92 about as well, which is another popular globular in Hercules.
M92 is often overlooked because it's quite close to M13, but it's actually quite a stunning globular cluster.
Yes.
It's well worth seeking that one out. It's a nice object, that one. M2 is another good one as well.
I'm not sure. I've not had a look at M2.
M2 is quite low in the south. It doesn't get very high.
That'll be why then. Yeah, my Southern Horizon's quite obscured here.
It might be said. Yeah, so go on, Nick.
I have to say, I have to put my favourite. I only like one globular cluster, I'm afraid, and that's Omega Centauri. And that is a pain to image from the UK. But one of the reasons I got to like it so much was because I was reading a paper about it, and it's turned out that it may actually not be a true globular. It may actually be a stripped galactic core.
So there might actually be a black hole in the middle of it then?
There is a black hole. That's what they begin to think inside Omega Cent, because it's not acting... It's been doing things that aren't considered to be globular cluster. And I found out about it, ironically, the first time I heard about it was from Megan Argo and on the Jogcast. So that got me looking into the whole thing, and I started imaging it on a remote telescope. So, as I say, that is the only globular cluster I actually like.
Well, no, I do like having a look at a globular cluster in a scope. Oh, excuse me. There's something magical about getting a big SCT on a globular cluster and peering deep into the heart of 100,000 stars. It's quite incredible, isn't it, Ian?
Globulars are some of my favourite objects, as well as open clusters as well. But the globulars have something very appealing about the shape of the object because it's symmetrical. Obviously, it's in a sphere. The stars are concentrated at the centre, and the more you look at them, the more stars you can see, and the more you can appreciate what they actually represent.
Indeed. Right, well, it's almost the end of the show, so just time to tell you that next month we'll be talking about light pollution. Don't forget as well that after the 25th of May in the UK, it will not get sufficiently dark to be considered astronomical twilight until July now. So although there's some good stuff to look at in the sky. There's Saturn up at the moment. There's Mars up at the moment. Venus is up. Great stuff to look at, but it's not getting really dark. Okay, so coming up next on Astronomy.fm, later on tonight you've got CosmoQuest, and they're talking about the Starship Enterprise is one of the things on their list. I don't know whether you all saw that, but there was a rather interesting website launched earlier in the week. So, it's time to say goodnight. So, good night all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
And we will see you next month. Please join us again for Under British Skies next month. You'll be able to get the podcast online from Wednesday.
You have been listening to Under British Skies with Richie Jarvis, Nick Howes, Iain Melville, Paul Harper, Nick Evetts, Sam Hawkins and Jenny Winder. The show is engineered by Michael Forster and produced by the team. Under British Skies is broadcast live on Astronomy.fm radio on the third Sunday of each month at 8 p.m. GMT. You can contact the team on Twitter at Under British Sky or email us at ubs@astronomy.fm. See you next month.
We hope that you've enjoyed this program from AFM Radio, the broadcast service of Astronomy.fm. This program has been released under Creative Commons license. Please contact us for details. You may find more of our AFM original programs on our website. It's really easy to find us. We are Astronomy.fm. You may also find us in the iTunes radio listings near the top of the News Talk section, and also as an iTunes podcast selection. We'd love to hear your comments. Please email us at radio@astronomy.fm. Thanks so much for being part of the voice of astronomy around the world and across the known universe. This is Astronomy.fm radio.
AFM.